So I plan on in this video talking about how to avoid bad experiences on salvia. Bad trips on salvia are quite common. The only drug I know of that maybe has another drug that has lots of bad trips is Datura, which I've never used. But salvia has a higher percentage of bad experiences, especially when people first are doing it for the first or second time, than say other psychedelics like mushrooms or LSD or Molly, if you count Molly. Anyway, I'm going to start out like this. I'm just taking a little tiny bit. You know, it's funny. When I smoke salvia, and I only took a little tiny bit this time, it's almost like coming to a refuge. In the salvia state, the meditation state that I go to, I feel very safe. But it's a space that I've built over years. It didn't used to be this way. It's an emotional state. Things fall apart a little bit. My understanding of the world falls apart a bit. But in its place is just this rock. It's like this solid space of confidence and security. But it took me years to build that up. Even euphoria, kind of. But euphoria isn't natural to salvia. As opposed to, say, Molly, where euphoria is just kind of what it does. Getting a positive experience out of salvia is a commitment. I'm not sure how I got down that path. It just sort of happened. In my late 20s, I guess, is when I got interested. They call salvia a dissociative, meaning that you dissociate with your ego, you dissociate with your body, you dissociate with your emotions and with your ideas. It's really hard to describe what that is, because your senses or your ideas, your emotions, it's not that they disappear. It's that you're disconnected from them and you can see them in this kind of objective way. The terms objective and subjective get really mushy here because we're talking about highly subjective things. We're talking about your conscious field. But what salvia teaches you to do is to be able to look at your own emotions and your own ideas the same way that you look at sensual things. And so you can see your anger or your lust or your hopes and your dreams or your little habits that you have. You see them from the same distance as you would see rocks or the log or your shirt. They are all things just arising within the subjective field. But in this state, people tend to freak out when they first start. It's the number one word I can think of for the salvia state is disorienting. It's very disorienting. You don't relate to the world in the normal way. You're not in the world in the normal way. It's not dualistic in the normal way, where there's you and you take for granted what you is, and you're kind of in this constant struggle against the other, and you can take for granted what the other is. When you're in salvia, it's all just phenomena rising and falling within the subjective field, whether it be labeled as internal or labeled as external. There's just the subjective field, and you're sort of dissociated with all of it kind of equally. And people freak out in this state because it's like when everything falls apart, what's left over, and if what's left over is a bunch of negative emotion, then that's what you're going to be swimming in when you're on salvia, and you're not going to like it. When everything falls apart, what's left? Salvia tears apart all the concepts and identities and things that you own and things you're in control of. All of that stuff that you think you understand and that you think you control, it falls, it's like it slips between your fingers, and you don't have that stuff anymore. You only have what was already there before. And what was already there before, if it's a lot of fear and anxiety and insecurity or self-hate, then that's what you're left for, and you're not going to have a good 15 minutes. But the good part is that when everything falls apart, you're in a place where you can heal what's left over. You can look at the whole subjective field. I think of it a lot as like energy work. I'm healing the whole thing. And by the whole thing, it's the whole subjective field. And so you can think of your subjective field as a field of pixels, and you can sort of clean them out mentally and emotionally, individually. Remember to fall in love with every little part of your life, all the internal stuff, all the external stuff. Notice what it is, and create a relationship of intimacy. Scan your body. Look at your toes, look at your knees. You're not trying to magically make pains go away. It's more like creating a level of intimacy and acceptance with every little phenomena that's going on in your conscious field. This is what you can do in mindfulness practice too, without drugs. And I do that too, but with salvia, it's like you get right into that state. So it doesn't take, for me, getting into a really deep state in meditation, conventional meditation probably takes 30 minutes. Whereas with salvia, it's just, I'm right there. And by the way, mindfulness meditation is the same way. You will run into negative, disturbing things. It isn't just, it's not just all balloons and rainbows and unicorns. Sometimes the unicorns have teeth. That's how spirituality is supposed to be. But the unicorn has teeth, and then you fall in love and accept the teeth, and then it's an even better unicorn than it was before. That's how the practice works.